I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting setting forth a time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, mailed to all who requested and paid for same, and published in Suburban Trends. Roll call, please.
Minister.
Here.
Council President Russ.
Here.
Councilman Bay.
Here.
Councilman DeLine.
Here.
Councilman Giacometti is excused.
He is excused.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Joseph Ragno and our Borough Administrator Kevin Boyle.
Okay, thank you. I have no presentations and updates, so we're going to go right to open session. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved.
Council President Riker, Councilman DeLine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
Hello, Helene Zablocki, 6 Butler Street. This is the middle of June, which is National Pride Month, and many towns in the area have discussed how to honor that, including having a flag in the townships. Locally in the record, it said that there was a petition in Wyckoff petitioning the township to have a flag. I'm hoping that we don't have to have a petition. I think this is really not a debatable issue. It's the right thing to do. What can be discussed is how the township decides to celebrate and honor tolerance and inclusiveness in this town. The fact that I think it should be done is not nearly as important as all of you here thinking it should be done. We have time between now and next June. I would love to think that something could be done by June 30th, 2019, even if it's something small, as an acknowledgement of the importance of taking that action. You would still be able to have an ad hoc committee to plan something for next June and following Junes, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I don't think it should be, it's certainly a nonpartisan issue. I don't think it needs to be something that is formally applied for. I just think it's the right thing. I was watching a Yankee game last week in Toronto, and during the broadcast, they showed some kind of a celebration with rainbow flags and things, and then I noticed on all of the bases on the field, there were rainbow stripes around the bases. So if Major League Baseball can do this, I certainly think it's the right thing to do. Yesterday, I was at the first session of the stigma-free training. I sat next to Frank. We were partners for something, and I see he's not here tonight, so it must have been an overwhelming experience for him.
It's his birthday.
It is his birthday, okay. Happy birthday, Frank. He's a wonderful artist, by the way. He did the poster that we had to do. But I was thinking, along those lines of being tolerant to all people and being a welcoming community. We have 2 churches in town, the Christ Episcopal Church and St. Mary's that I know of, that are very LGBTQ friendly. I don't know whether they could be consulted for future things regarding the town, but I think it's the right thing to do, and I would hope that you all can come up with something, whether it's a flag or ribbons or something that would signify the importance of this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I personally, I have no issue with it. How we do it and what we do would be discussed up here. It's a little late right now for this month. We might be able to squeeze something in the next 2 weeks. But if we can't get anything in the next 2 weeks, then we would definitely look at it for next year. And I'd have to talk to the rest of the council and see how they feel, of course. Inclusion for everyone is an important part of life in general, I think. So,
Mayor, can I comment?
Sure.
I was going to wait to my report, but if it's okay with you. I echo your remarks. They were in my comments for this evening. And several things that I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention. This year, we did not as a community really think about it talk about it. But this is the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, which is really the beginning of the Pride movement. What struck me at the beginning of the month is I wasn't surprised to see ceremonies in Jersey City and Hoboken and Newark. But what did strike me is that if you followed some of the local news, there was a ceremony in Glen Rock, and the ceremony was led by the current Attorney General. And when I saw that it was in Glen Rock, and that's what I responded to particularly, is Glen Rock is a little community like ours. And one of my concerns is, yes, it is the middle of June. But I did notice when the Attorney General spoke that basically they hung a pride flag from the podium, that perhaps we could do something as simple as that this year, and then as a community perhaps bring the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts in, that we do on many things. But this year, clearly, you are correct. It's the 11th hour, it's the middle of Pride Month. The Pride Parade will be, the one in Manhattan will be at the very end of the month. But something perhaps as simple as that might be a way for at least us, especially acknowledging that this community has gone to such lengths to describe the stigma-free.
All right, so I think we'll meet privately and maybe try to come up with something in the next 2 weeks, if that's what we decide to do, and then look forward to it for next year. Any other people like to speak? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilman Devine, Councilman Begg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve minutes of, regular meeting minutes of May 22nd, 2019. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Was that Councilman Lennon? Councilman Devine, Council President Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Closed session meeting minutes of May 22nd, 2019. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Devine, Councilwoman Palladori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Bills and claims, motion to approve the following bills as listed below.
So moved.
Councilman Begg,
Second.
Councilman Lennon, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? We have no petitions, consent agenda, whenever you're ready. Does anybody wish to have one?
Any other resolutions to be pulled?
Anybody need something pulled? Nope.
Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, and whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes does not desire to move resolutions for individual actions from that agenda, now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 19-121 through 19-133. Resolution 123 and 134 on separate action.
Okay. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Councilman, who's that? Devine? Councilman Lennon, all in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right, separate action.
Resolution 19-123, a resolution authorizing direct mayor and clerk to execute the collective bargaining agreement with the Communication Workers of America, AFL-CIO, crossing guard for years 2019 through 2023.
Motion to approve Resolution 19-123 for introduction. Councilman Begg?
Not for introduction, it's for
Oh, for, motion to approve resolution. Oh, we're voting on it, okay. Who's that, Councilman Begg, Councilwoman Palladori? Roll call, please. Or any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Polidori?
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Lennon?
Yes.
Councilman Begg?
Yes.
Councilman Devine?
Yes.
Liz, I'm going to ask the next one to be tabled.
Okay.
Okay. 19-134 was added to our agenda after the packets were put together. It contains a very detailed contract that came to you at the 11th hour, and I feel you need time to read it, discuss it, ask any questions of Joe or other members of the Personnel Committee. And so I ask that you put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
So we need a motion?
I don't know.
Yeah, we wouldn't have to have a motion in the
Is that the proper way to do it?
Yeah, okay, so, there were, that was, just so there's some explanation of what the resolution is. That is from our building code to follow the state or...
No, the chief contract. I'm asking the chief contract.
Oh, you're using an old, you're using...
Oh, there's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
So, okay, amended, okay. Wondering where you guys were. I was like, what are you talking about?
It came last minute, and it's too important to be dealt with that way.
Okay, so we're gonna, we have a motion, can I have a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Polidori, ready to roll call now?
You don't need a roll call, just...
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? So that'll be tabled till next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, now, first readings. I'm on the right agenda, so it's first readings.
Ordinance 19-19, an ordinance amending certain sections of Chapter 19, Section 2.4 fees.
Okay, motion to approve ordinance 1919 for introduction.
So,
Yes, sir.
The building department has requested this ordinance because of changes in the statutory law dealing with the manner in which they have to handle fees. There was a requirement to break out mechanical subcode fees from other fees that were in our ordinance, so this just brings us in line with what the building department tells me we are required to have on the charging of fees for construction permits and mechanical subcode permits.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve ordinance 1919 for introduction?
so moved.
Can I have, Council President Riker, can I have a second? Second. Councilman DeLine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Roll call.
We need a roll call now?
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Polidori? Yes. Councilwoman Riker?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Bay?
Yes.
Councilman Dewan?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're good? Okay. Under my report, I'll start with our Memorial Day Parade, which I was very excited to see it be well attended. There was a lot of people in the streets, which is always nice to see that people come out and support something like that. I think as usual, Bob and Grady and the crew down at our Veterans Hall did a great job in feeding everybody and putting it all together. They put that whole parade together with the help of us up here, but they do all the work. It was nice to see the town come together for a good cause. And we, as people who put these kind of things on, appreciate the fact that people from town come out and support them. So we're always going to ask that, when we have those things, to continue doing that. I had a conversation after we had the meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, with the DEP. They had heard what we had said, and I spoke to the Commissioner's office last week, and they will be sending in a representative to talk to our residents here with any concerns they have with the DEP. That will probably be happening on, was it this week or next week? Do you remember? Yeah, I think it's going to be next Thursday. Right now, it'll be once a month or so. For the first couple, we'll see how it goes, and then they'll adjust as needed. It's a start. We've been pushing for the last 5 years to have somebody from the DEP here to talk to our residents about the cleanups. They finally have listened. With the help of the audience that was here that night and the council and mayor up here, they decided to send somebody down here. So probably once a month, they'll have a representative here to talk, which is always good. I performed a couple weddings. Last night I attended the Girl Scout bridging ceremony. It's always an exciting event to see the Girl Scouts get the equivalent of an Eagle Scout award at their event. What was really amazing to me is to watch the little kindergarten kids move into their next phase. And they were in front of probably, 300 people, and they had to go up there and say what they liked about Girl Scouts. So for a little 5-year-old to stand up on stage and say something on a microphone is always impressive to me, because I don't even want to do it when I'm up here now. So congratulations to all the Girl Scouts last night. They always do a great job. And again, another group that always supports all the events we have here. There's been some talk about our dock down at the Lakeside Pavilion. We are in the process of repairing it, where the boat launch is. We will be putting some new blacktop there to get boats in or out, to make it a little easier. But, the real concern and the issue we still have over there is parking, and we understand it's not Pompton Lakes residents most of the time causing the issues with the parking. It's mostly out-of-town people coming in to use our lake, and I think there's been some discussion with a couple of the environmental groups, Open Space and River Group, to talk about how we can handle that and maybe do a permitting of some type where Pompton Lakes residents would get a certain permit, and out-of-state people or out-of-town people would get a different permit, because the parking of the trailers, once you put a boat in the water, is always a problem, and they start to block up streets, and we've actually limited some streets now to where they can put those boats, so it becomes a hassle. And one time I was there trying to get across Lakeside Avenue, and there was a guy who was not very good at backing up a trailer, blocking both lanes of traffic on Lakeside Avenue. He was probably there 15 minutes trying to back this boat out, and I finally stood up and I said, "Guys, you can't block traffic like this. This is a major road here in town." He wasn't from town. He didn't seem to really care. I said, "If you don't move it, I'm going to have to call the police. You can't block the street." So, it's a problem, especially with the weather starting to turn now. I'm sure some other people will talk about it. We did the Morse Greenway walk, and I'm sure Councilman DeWine will speak a little bit about that, or Councilman Bennon. It was a nice walk, beautiful trail. They've done a lot of nice work down there, and if you haven't walked on those trails yet, take a walk down there. It's a nice, peaceful walk along the river. It's marked. It's easy to follow. There are maps. So it's always a good thing to add to our community here. And that is my report. Council President Riker.
Okay, thank you. I just want to comment on the NJDEP's meeting here in town. It was very well attended, and the end result, well, one of the end results that we were looking for is the commitment from the commissioner to send us a representative like we get from the EPA, and as the mayor indicated, we should have that should happen the first time, hopefully next week. But the DEP did a good job in terms of producing a balanced meeting. They brought a handful of their experts. They had a small PowerPoint. There were people there that were able to answer specific questions. They were gracious with their time in terms of letting members of the audience speak. And I think all in all, it was a successful evening.
Yes.
I have a follow-up to my comments about our relationship with the Board of Ed. Last week, myself and Councilman Begg attended the Board of Ed. He took copious notes, so I just have a few comments, and I'm sure you'll say more about them. The Board of Ed meeting, two things struck me. One is I had indicated how pleased we were as a community that we have a couple of the highest-ranking students in the graduating class going to very prestigious universities. One of the things that they dealt with at the Board of Ed meeting was a presentation by the high school guidance counselors. And one of the things that I'm just trying to help get the message out is they do have a new, they were there to thank the Board of Ed for funding this brand-new program that they have that helps students figure out where they want to go and what they possibly want to do. But the critical point that I think needs to be made, and it goes hand in hand with our students getting into these prestigious schools, that you can't wake up at the end of your 11th grade and say, oh, where am I going to go? And the program that they now have in place really is engineered to begin to get you thinking about what you want to do, where you want to go, what type of environment you want to be in, so that there are certain exercises and certain activities you do as a 9th grader, you do as a 10th grader, you do as an 11th grader. So by the time you're in the throes of that application process, you're truly ready and raring to go. And the other feature of the program that they have is that there are parent components. So the parents are brought in early in the process. So they don't just come in when it's time to fill out the FAFSA form. So that was a very interesting presentation by the Guidance Department, and in addition, they introduced to the community the new principal at the Lincoln School, who will be replacing Mr. Shadyac, who we vetted here at the previous meeting. Other thing I want to acknowledge is this is the beginning of lots of events in town, and we are getting some pretty good coverage in the local paper, reminding people that the library is doing a Cecil B. DeMille festival, and don't forget our bid concerts. They go throughout the summer. There's one thing I'd like to ask the council folks. Did everybody get this New Jersey Future letter? Did this come to everybody? No, just to me? Okay. I was trying to figure out, okay, what I'm going to do, Liz, is I'm going to leave you a copy and then share it with the council. I have a feeling why it came just to me. What it basically is we're invited to participate in a program called Aging Friendly Communities. And there's an introductory program at the end of the month in Hasbrook Heights. And basically beginning to share some things that we could do to keep the seniors here, make it a more senior-friendly community. And I was trying to figure out what the link was, and I realized on the bottom, much of the money for this is by the Henry and Marilyn Taub Foundation. The Taubs are very philanthropic members of the northern New Jersey Jewish community. They funded a lot of programs, one in particular, which we in the community have done something similar. The Taubs have funded something called One Book, One Community, where they have a committee that picks a book like our library does. The only thing is, this is very well funded, and what they then do is they fly the author in to speak to the group and describe how the book was written, and then have an elaborate dessert buffet. But my hunch is this must be one of their foundation must have provided money for aging and dealing with the aging population. So, Liz, if you don't mind, I will leave you both the copy and the flyer so you can scan it and give it to them. And my last comment is that I just want to acknowledge, it came up in passing earlier, we have a lot of birthdays up here on the dais in June. This is a very June-heavy council. Councilman Giaconetta's birthday's today, the mayor's birthday's tomorrow, my birthday is next following weekend, and if I'm not mistaken, you've got a June birthday, right? 26. Right, okay. Did I leave anybody else out? Okay, so, anyhow, happy birthday to everybody. Okay, Mayor, that's my report.
Thank you, and you reminded me, I'm sorry, I thought we had a meeting after the DEP. Did we have a meeting after that? No, maybe not. So I should update everybody on what happened. That's why I didn't speak about it. I thought we did already. So let me just go back. We had the DEP commissioner was here about 2 weeks ago. She came in to speak to about 60 invited guests. I thought that it was very gracious of her to come down and speak to us, considering they do a lot of the work that's being done on the remediation of the site. I thought the questions that were asked were good, strong questions, and she didn't shy away from any of the questions or answers. If she didn't know what they were, she said, "I'd get back to you." You know, I think Council President brought up the fact that one of the things was pushed is the meeting, to have someone here. There will be someone from the DEP starting next week. You know, and I always say it up here, and I know people don't like to hear it sometimes, we are not the experts here, we do not make the final decisions here. That was one of the experts that we deal with when it comes to remediation of the DuPont site. Okay, so the residents had their chances at that moment to ask any concern or question that they thought was very important to them or to the cleanup, and they did. So, you know, this is the second time we've had the DEP commissioner here in a year. For a small town, to have the commissioner come to a town twice is a big deal. So it shows that she cares about what's going on. It shows that she listens to what we say. You know, I might yell and scream a little bit at the higher levels to try to get people to come down here and help us, but at the end of the day, those are the people that need to speak to our residents. You know, the EPA was here, they did a presentation also, they're available to talk. Like Council President Riker said, and everybody here was there, I thought it was a great meeting. I thought the points got across. not everybody's going to be happy with all the answers that were said there, but at the end of the day, that's the group that's making part of the decision. So, again, I just wanted to thank them for coming. Councilwoman Caldori, I'm sorry, Councilman Begg.
Thank you. I received the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad report for the month of May 2019 from Chief Sean Filippi. There were 86 calls for service for the month of May. There were 49 calls in Pompton Lakes, 10 calls in Riverdale, 5 duty calls in Wanacue. There were 62 medical emergency calls, 5 trauma injury calls, 1 CPR call, 10 motor vehicle accident calls, and 2 fire calls. I received the Pompton Lakes Police Department report for the month of May from Chief Moses Augusto. There were 2,521 calls for service for the month of May. There were 670 motor vehicle stops, 383 motor vehicle summonses issued, 28 motor vehicle accidents investigated, 58 medical emergency calls, 2 DWI arrests, 30 alarm condition burglary, 4 alarm conditions fire, 58 ambulance requests, 48 burglaries, 6 thefts, 4 burglaries, 6 thefts, and 4 domestic violence. No sexual assaults and no aggravated assaults. The Detective Bureau investigated 3 complaints, served 11 subpoenas, and did 15 background checks and reviewed 2 applications. I attended the Pompton Lakes Prevention Coalition on May 23rd. Coordinator Ashley Lusick reported that the video produced by the Hawk Club at Pompton Lakes High School took 2nd place at the Passaic County Teen Summit. She also reported that the Hawk Club had a successful Walk for Hope event and plan on continuing the event next year. The coalition gave the 2 presentations to the school faculty, one at Lakeside Middle School on May 13th, titled Current Drug Trends, and at Pompton Lakes High School on May 20th, titled Technology Smartphone Dependence. I attended the Pompton Lakes Board of Education meeting on June 4th. Ms. Tammy Weishaupt gave a report on the counseling services available in the school district. She spoke about the continuing rollout plan for the new Navient system used at Pompton Lakes High School to assist students in planning for college and career planning. It was reported that 3 of the top students from the class of 2019 will be attending the following schools: Luke Alameda, Harvard University; Sean Bootsma, the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania; and Jane Leibel, attending Vassar. Congratulations also goes to Superintendent Dr. Paul Amoroso, who is the 2019 Passaic County Superintendent of the Year. I also attended the Pompton Lakes Board of Education meeting on June 11th. The board approved purchasing 200 Lenovo ThinkPads and Lenovo ThinkPad dock stations, replacing and accessory equipment, replacing old technology. The value of the equipment is $246,915.04. The board appointed Jennifer Zioli as the Director of Special Services, replacing Dr. Fenwick, who took a position in another district. And that's my report.
Thank you. I did attend the event that the Alliance had here on underage drinking. Unfortunately, it wasn't well attended, but it was filmed and hopefully will be put on Channel 77. Is that correct or no?
Yeah, he hasn't put it up. He hasn't put it up as yet.
It's up or it is not?
I don't believe it's up yet. I'll check again.
Okay. Again, one of those very important, it was a great presentation, really. It showed how to talk to your son or daughter about drinking at the age of 12. It was a good presentation. I wish more parents would see it because it wasn't telling you how to do things or yelling at you. It was suggesting ideas, which was a really good plan. So hopefully we'll get that on television. The other thing I had to bring up too is, it's that time of year when everybody's outside, and paying attention to their lawns and pools and everything else. The best channel to fix the problem you have in your neighborhood is either speak to one of us up here or make a call into the Borough Hall to get your questions answered. There was a situation with a neighbor who was upset about how high the grass was, and they tried to speak to the neighbor. Probably it's not the best thing to go talk to that neighbor. Just let the town take care of it. There was an issue with the pool, which we handled. Sometimes people don't understand there's certain roles for certain things to do. Like, for example, when there's a pool problem, our inspectors have nothing to do with pools. And some people were upset that our inspectors were doing nothing, but really it was the health department that had to make the call and make the fines and do all that, which they did go in and do. He was just talking to the wrong people. So really, the first step, if you have a concern being outside, is to contact one of us or contact the town and say, what should I do? Not in a panic. We'll get there. We'll take a look at it. What should I do with this situation that's happening? Try not to confront people on your own, because it never works out well when that happens. Councilman Devine.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start off with covering a couple ordinances that will be brought up for first reading next month. The first one is an ordinance amending Section 8-8, which is firearms and other weapons. Essentially, this ordinance change would require anyone who's providing armed security, whether it be the company that's doing it or the company that's requesting it, to notify the police within 72 hours that that's going to be happening, that the people with the firearms carry their registration and be ready to submit it for inspection if a police officer or a Class 2 special police officer requests it. There is a permit associated with it, and then also that they, within the 72-hour period, the names of the personnel to be used and the type of and serial number of all firearms to be carried has to be submitted. So it's not more than just a notification. You have to submit some information associated with that.
Where did the impetus for this ordinance come from?
The police primarily, but the purpose of it is to make sure that we don't end up in a situation where the good guys are shooting at the good guys, because nobody knows who's got guns. And the issue never came up before because nobody ever used armed security in the borough, but recently there's been armed security used, and no one's saying that you can't use armed security, simply saying that if you're going to do that, the police department needs to know about it in advance so that nothing can go wrong.
The second item is amending ordinance section 8-17, which is the parking of vehicles in Pompton Lakes. Two main changes to that. The first being the requirement that vehicles have to be parked on paved surfaces, so they can't be parked on lawns, which is not currently prohibited. And then the second item being the overnight parking of commercial vehicles. This would restrict the ability to park commercially registered vehicles and their trailers on any street in Pompton Lakes between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m., essentially overnight. Currently, we have a restriction that prevents commercial vehicles from being parked in driveways. If it's over 10,000 pounds gross weight, they can have no more than one. If it's over 10,000, they cannot have a vehicle. If it's under 10,000, they cannot have a commercially parked vehicle in their driveway. But there is no such restriction on the streets themselves. So this would address that. That basically saying, well, I can't park my commercial vehicle in a residential area in my driveway overnight, so now I'm going to park it on the street where we have no restriction on that. That's what that ordinance would take care of.
So let's just go back to that ordinance, because that's a bigger change in our ordinances right now. And some of the reasoning we're having is I get a lot of calls about large boats that people are parking in the street, on the smaller streets down on the south end, and you can't see around them or get around them. Larger landscape trailers or trucks or business trucks that are bought. We had a guy for a while that was parking an 18-wheeler down on Pine Street. I mean, that's a tiny road. It was very difficult to get around. We didn't have ordinances in place, so that's what these ordinances are about, to try to address that a little bit. We're not trying to restrict business, we're not trying to restrict what people do, we're just trying to keep the streets open and clear for people to do what they gotta do.
Where do the large recreational vehicles, the,
There's a stipulation.
Winnebagos,
Or it's not considered a commercial vehicle,
That's-
so this ordinance does not cover that.
does
There
not
was a
cover it, but
stipulation,
do
9 a
we?
day, wasn't there? How many days?
Well, this ordinance only deals with nighttime, overnight parking
Right.
of commercial vehicles.
Okay, so I guess my next question is, there are those people who have Winnebago or recreational type vehicles that are as large as, in terms of visibility issues and...
Yeah, that
Do we-
language
do we-
still has to be worked on. We discussed that within ordinance, but the language has
But that's...
Not covered under this.
Not covered on this, but still in the, it didn't get lost in the shuffle.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any concerns, discussion? Okay.
Yeah, how will that affect, a snowstorm when, you have to get your car off the road?
Well,
There's no-
there's discretionary enforcement, obviously, but again, those vehicles shouldn't be parking, commercial vehicles shouldn't be allowed to park overnight on the road anyways. So the idea of moving them off of the street, seems to me sort of a moot point because they're not supposed to be parked overnight.
Well, not just
commercial vehicles, but any vehicle.
Let's get that straight. So on a snow day, there are people who are gonna park their cars on their lawn because there's not enough room to fit all the cars in the driveway. I'm sure, I can't speak for the police, but I'm sure they're not going to ticket on those occasions when there's special needs to have all the cars off the street so they can plow. But in the middle of June, on a nice summer day, you can't park your truck on the front lawn as a parking spot. I think that's more the lines to what we were talking about. Did you have a question?
No, that was my question.
Okay. Anything done there?
And then the third item being, we're reopening the issue of the animal control. If you remember, towards the end of 2017, we passed an animal control ordinance basically prohibiting, farm animals, with certain exceptions for like chickens, ducks, and poultry and fowl within certain sizes, but hoofed animals required a minimum, lot size of 5 acres. This ordinance, as it was previously proposed, would reduce the permitted lots, or the required lot size to 400 or 40,000 square feet lot, essentially a little less than 1 acre for goats. I have made some suggestions, rather than carve out a special exception for one particular hoofed animal on a smaller acre lot, because we made the decision, yeah, it makes sense to prohibit hoofed animals unless you have 5 acres. Now we're carving an exception to say, well, if we don't find goats to be an issue on 40,000 square feet, how would we find other hoofed animals to be an issue on 40,000 square feet? So, I had drafted some changes, basically allowing any hoofed animal, within 40,000 square feet. It was shared that, yes, other larger hoofed animals could be brought on if you've got 40,000 square feet. So my point, and then I made the point of, well, what if we put some kind of size limitation subject to the discretion of the animal control officer? I said 50 to 60 pounds or something along those lines. There's a little bit of, I guess the guidance is not to put any kind of limit or use that as a measurement. So I'm kind of bringing it up to the council's point for discussion on how we want to go, because again, I kind of took exception to the idea that we were going to carve an exception out for one particular kind of hoofed animal, as opposed to these other kind of hoofed animals, because somebody wanted it or somebody already has it or things like that, where, the next time somebody comes in and says, well, I'd really like to have a small pig that's, very small, well, we don't have an exception for that, so let's carve an exception out for these really small pigs. So, to me, it's either we address it in sort of a larger macro scale, or, we go ahead with just the goats themselves, or we don't change it at all. So I just want to see where the council...
All right, before we get there, I met with Lisa Perry, who's our animal control person, myself and Joe yesterday. Her concern with the way, she kind of agrees with what he's saying, but the problem would be the identification of the weight of the animal. She's not going to walk around with a scale weighing animals. So Eric is saying, we could take a look by at her discretion to make the decision, and then it could be any animal, which I'm okay with. It's just that, I think that, and we'll have to work out the wording a little bit on how that's going to be about discretion and how you make that choice. There's not a lot of properties that are an acre or bigger in Pompton Lakes right
I
now.
was just going to ask for clarification, is 40,000,
It was
Just about an acre,
40,000.
is just about an acre?
Right.
It's about
Yeah.
80% of that.
Yeah.
So, that was my question.
There are some, there are others, yes, there are. But, it sounds like a big lot, but, if we didn't limit it in size, you could have 2 horses there. And I'm sure if you're in a residential neighborhood would happen to have that big property, you're probably not going to want, neighbors are not going to want 2 horses or 2 cows in their backyard. But at the same time, there are some people who would like a goat or a pig or a smaller animal. So he wants a little feedback from the council. If you can either give it now, or you can put it in writing, whatever you guys want to do, so we can kind of move forward with that. So if you have anything to say now, say it. If not, we can do it in writing later. Any comments?
Think about it.
Do you want me to send the ordinance to every...
Yeah, let's do that.
Is there a variance process?
Yeah, there's always a variance process, right?
You can always ask for a waiver, sure. You can come here and ask for a waiver. But I'm not sure you'd be getting a waiver for Eric's point is that it's limited to one type of animal. I'm not sure you'd be wanting to further waive for that animal. His concern is that if you're going to give an exception for one, correct me if but if you're giving an exception for one hoofed animal, maybe you should be giving it for all hoofed animals. Or maybe the size of the lot has to be adjusted for all of them, or whatever the change would be. But what I'm going to do is send everybody a copy of the proposed ordinance so that you can ask intelligent questions of Eric. Remember, you can't discuss it among yourselves, but you can ask Eric, okay?
Copies, yeah.
Eric, where did the rationale for the exception for the small hoofed animal, where did that come from?
There's a property in Pompton Lakes that already had goats on its property when the ordinance was passed. That was later discovered, hence there's not a packet grandfather in it. So hence the initial proposed change for just for the goats.
So,
because we already had
I should say this for the public's concern. I know it sounds ridiculous that we pass these chicken ordinances and duck ordinances and these kind of ordinances, but these problems do come up, unfortunately. There are people who would like to have these animals in town, and most of our lots are 50 by 100, 50 by 75, whatever they are, so we're not putting, a horse on there. But, there's quite a few people that once we pass that, and I always say this, being mayor for 4 years and on council for a while, the most questions I've got asked about by the public and the press is our chicken ordinance that we passed 4 years ago. Forget DuPont, forget flooding, that's the most. So, but there are a lot of people that have chickens here, so they do raise chickens and they take care of them and they do their thing. So this is where it all came from. We do have residents that are doing this. So let's get those comments, Derek, if you have any, and we'll take it from there.
All right, thank you, Mike. The rest of my report will go relatively quickly. Again, I attended the Memorial Day Parade. I want to thank Bob McGrady and the VFW for organizing it. The memorial service is always an important event, so it was really nice to see as many people as there were at the event. And, since I've, participated in walking in the parade, I really think it was the most I've seen along the parade route itself in a while. So it was really good to see everybody out there. There was, really good spirit and everything like that. So, thank you for, all the people that also walked in the parade. I know there's interest from additional groups to walk next year, so we, continue to try and grow it. Also attended the meeting with the DEP Commissioner. Just want to echo the statement that it was a very well-run meeting, a lot of good information that came out, new information, and I did want to thank all of the attendees for being courteous and respectful through the entire meeting. As the mayor mentioned, we had National Trails Day on Saturday, June 1st. We did the ribbon cutting and walk of the Morris Canal Greenway. This was our 5th National Trails Day. Again, we had, couple people, somebody came from the Canal Society of New Jersey, Randy Hinton from Shade Tree Commission came, actually, Frank Biederman came too, because he rode his bike and then walked with us, which was nice. So, everybody, just remarked on what a nice, environment it is, and I've ran with a couple people that like to enjoy running on that trail. So again, thank for everyone, that, came, and especially wanted to thank the Trails Committee who got the trail really looking sharp for National Trails Day. And then, last week, I attended the VFW meeting. The VFW discussed the Memorial Day Parade. They want actually looking at taking care of the shrubbery that surrounds the platform, just to open up the views a little bit, because whoever's talking, you're trying to figure out who's actually saying something. Yeah, and then, the other thing was they talked about the success of the Roger Miller Memorial Golf Outing. I guess it was at the Passaic County Golf Course. It was well attended, but I guess if they grow it even more, they actually get to close one part of the course that they're playing on. They had an open course at that point, but, they did very well on that, and they're doing a lot of, good things as part of that, and they continue to find ways to want to, contribute to the community. And then, lastly, just wanted to, wish happy birthday to Frank Giaconetta, Mayor Sarah, Council President Riker, and Councilman Begg, and anybody else in the audience who has a June birthday that I've forgotten. And happy Father's Day coming up this Sunday to all the fellow dads. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. I attended the VFW outing, and like you said, it was a beautiful day. There was quite a few people there, and they could always get more. So if you're always looking to do a couple golf outings a year, I think that's one of them. It's a good cause. It's for our local vets in town, and they do a lot of programs here for them. And we thank Eric for being one of our vets, and Bill, you're a vet too, right? And Bill for being a vet also.
Mayor, just follow up to the trails comments. Earlier, a couple of meetings ago, I talked a little bit about the meeting that the mayor and I went to with the realtors. I got an email this afternoon, a follow-up email from the person in the New Jersey real estate office that deals with the grants that they may be able to help us do something with in addition to our trails. So I'm assuming the person I should forward it to is...
Yes, absolutely.
Is you, and because he was trying to figure out who amongst the council people would be interested in working with.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'll start it with you, and then we'll figure out what...
Yeah, we'll pass on the Trails Committee. Oh, one more thing I did want to bring up. Actually, speaking of the Girl Scouts, there is a Girl Scout that's looking at doing some trail projects on the Yellow Trail, which, as I've discussed before, has become challenging because of the amount of water that we're experiencing along the Paquonic River, and now they're starting to look at that as potential projects along that trail. So we've started that conversation, so hopefully she can work that, and that would be her Girl Scout Silver Award.
And I was going to announce that if any Girl Scout or Boy Scout is looking for a project, we do have another project down there with the grass underneath the benches that they could probably take care of. So if you're interested if you know somebody interested in a project like that, either contact myself, Councilman Denner, or Councilman DeLine, or the town, and we'll hook you up with the right people. Councilwoman Palladori.
Thank you. So one of the things I always like to talk about is collaboration that we see in town and our sense of community spirit, and that is all over this time of year. I also walked with the mayor and council on the Memorial Day Parade. We had a lot of organizations from town show up. I want to thank the VFW for the very moving and beautiful opening ceremony before the parade began, and then hosting us for a little celebration on the property afterwards, so that was very nice. I also attended the meeting with the DEP. Thank you to the residents that came out. Please take advantage of the opportunity to come in and meet with the representatives when they're here and ask any questions that you may have. I did help the Elks Club with their monthly pasta night this month, so that was very nice to see a lot of the local organizations come out and have dinner. I know there was a couple tables from the Women's Club there. It's always a good night. It's a great price. There's tons of food. The Elks do a great job, so I encourage you. It's once a month, the last Friday of the month. I was also in attendance for the ribbon cutting for the Morris Canal Greenway. Thank you to the volunteers that made that possible. The trail is beautiful. We had a lovely time. I was given the opportunity to present one of the scholarships this past week. Congratulations to all the recipients. There were some very brilliant students up there. This is an extremely exciting time of year. If you have children in school, you know there's a lot going on right now. These kids are about to start the next chapter of their lives, so I wish them much luck as they prepare for the next steps in their journey. I have a little one that is leaving Lenox this year and starting Lakeside next year, so we have a lot of activities happening right now. The PTA celebrated their year-end dinner, and as a departing fifth grade parent, we were given a little gift, and it was nice to see everybody come together once more for the summer. I think the parents become a little less and less involved with the day-to-day activities as they get older, so for me, leaving Lenox, this was a nice celebration to be able to sit with my friends. I've become quite close to a lot of my son's friends' parents, so we have a nice little group there, and it's nice to see the kids getting ready to
mix with the Lincoln School kids and start their next journey. That being said, I do want to thank the Rec Committee and Karen and DJ Joe Bagnetto for hosting the Lincoln and Lennox Mixer at the Teen Center this past week. The children from Lincoln and Lennox School were given a chance to come out. They had a little dance. They had some social time together so that they could become familiar with each other before they start middle school. One of the moms in town had extended an offer for everyone to meet at the park so that we could take some photographs with the kids all together. It was a really beautiful day. The kids had a great time. Lead graduation was today, so thank you to the Pompton Lakes Police Department for all of their work with the students. Coffee with the council, I was not able to attend, but I know Councilman DeLine and Councilman Bay were there. We are postponing it for the months of July and August. We will be starting again in September with a possible change in location, so we will let you know. And I encourage you to continue to check the rec webpage. There are a lot of activities taking place right now, and some new ones as well. There are sign-ups online for summer camps. Yoga is still taking place on Tuesday and Thursday. We're starting to work toward Pompton Day again this year. There are vendor applications in the Borough Hall. Karen is looking for volunteers, so if you're willing to help out on Pompton Day, please reach out. Field hockey camp is going on, and we have two new activities that are starting. Kickball, that looks like it's for the adults at the Riverdale School every Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. There is no cost to attend that. And we are also starting recreational volleyball. So, you know, this is really great because there are a ton of community activities that are put out by the rec department that are either free or of low cost. So they're really, every night of the week is something that you could get out and do, get some exercise, some fresh air, and meet your neighbors. So please check that website. I do want to extend a happy birthday to everyone. Just a blanket happy June birthday here and out there. Happy Father's Day to all of you. Please enjoy the weekend. Flag Day is Friday. And I do have a motion to read. So I would like to present a motion to approve the request of the Pompton Lakes High School to close Lakeside Avenue from the Pond Hole entrance to 18th Street on Thursday, June 20th, 2019, from 5:15 p.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. for the 2019 high school graduation ceremony that will commence at 6:30 p.m. The police, fire, and first aid have been notified.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Council President Riker, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Just to follow up on what you were talking about with the rec, summer camp runs from June 24th, coming up real soon, till July 26th. You don't have to go to all 4 weeks. You can do a week or 2 weeks or whatever you want. They are still taking applications for people to go to camp. So if you're interested, please contact Karen Murphy or come here and get an application. You can sign up to the day before camp. Also, Councilwoman Palladori named a lot of great events. Another event they're offering that is new to town is boxing. They will be introducing a boxing program at a local gym here for a discounted rate for our residents. So if you're interested in boxing or getting in shape with boxing, that's another way to go. And you mentioned Flag Day is Friday. The Elks will be doing a Flag Day ceremony starting at 6 o'clock at the Elks Lodge. I'm sure everyone is invited to attend if they'd like to attend. I know I will be going, and some of the council members here will be going. It's always a nice event. Councilman Denon.
All right, close it. I'd also like to thank the Rec Commission for the fifth grade dance. My daughter had a great time. I also attended the Girl Scout bridging ceremony last night. I want to thank all the Girl Scout volunteers who helped shape our future leaders. Both my girls are part of the Girl Scouts. I'd like to give a special thanks to Girl Scout dad, Mike Fasolettos, who leads my older daughter's cadet troop. From Library Board, we are doing One Book, One Town once again. The book chosen is An Invisible Thread. This book is currently available for purchase at the library. Details are available at on the library Facebook page and the Friends of Library Facebook page as well. The Historic Commission will be going through the storage unit this weekend and cataloging and sorting out all the artifacts that have been collected throughout the years. So in the very near future, you should be able to see them on display in various locations throughout the town, and these locations are still to be determined. The ribbon cutting was awesome. It was a project in the making for around, 5 years, Councilman? It was before, it was way before, it was after I got on the planning board, so it was after 2013, but it was 2010?
No, it wasn't
All right,
2010.
so that's for 2013, but before I got on the council, some 2014, 15.
2014.
So it was many years in the making. Councilman DeLine spearheaded it, and it's very, very nice to see it come to fruition. It's really, and there's additional phases that are planned, right?
Well, I mean, we'll
Adult fit
find
stores
ways
potentially.
to improve it around the
Right.
edges, yeah.
So it's very exciting. And lastly, as some of you may or may not know, I'm a very big proponent of public safety. Previously, the crosswalks in town were painted in the late summer, right before school started, but that didn't leave much time for use of them because they'll get cold, and then traffic and then plows, and it'll be all worn out by the time summer came along, spring and summer came along, foot traffic. We discussed having them painted potentially twice a year, and downtown, you'll see that Wanacue Ave is recently, the crosswalks are brand new and nice and bright for summer foot traffic. So thank you to all involved for getting that done. And that is my report.
Thank you, and it does make a difference downtown with the crosswalks, it does. There's one more thing going on this Saturday. There's a first responders softball tournament sponsored by the Pompton Lakes Riverdale First Aid Squad. It's all donation to a bunch of teams come out and play. There's a lot of young firemen and police departments, and then there's one team that is made up of a bunch of fat old 50-year-old men. That team almost won it last year. I'm just going to say, if I'm not on that team, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but that team almost won the whole tournament. So it's always a fun time. It's all Pompton Lakes residents mostly that come down and play and watch. You're welcome to come down. They're selling T-shirts, they're selling food. It starts at 10 o'clock at Herschel Field and goes most of the day. And it's a fun event, and it's a good cause. So I hope everybody comes down and supports it. Professional report. No report. Administrator's report.
I have a few things, Mayor. The council received my report by email on Thursday or Friday of last week. At the end of our work, our Superintendent of Public Works received his certification for recycling coordinator. So you see that. We got that letter from Rutgers. Councilman Riker were concerned over the last winter relative to alignment construction in the Summit Ave project in the wall. When it's all said and done, there's about 7 days that could be accounted for as maybe being over the actual construction time period. So we have to evaluate that. Liquidated damages is $750 a day for 7 days. And we'll have to take into account that relative to potential litigation if they decide they want to fight that. But that's the overall review. If you look at the break I gave to the council, it talks about bad weather, talks about the different issues going on. So it was 7 days the engineering firm figured was over the construction contract a lot of time to finish the project. So we're going to be reviewing that. Barbara Frankel, who works in our DPW, and our accounts payable is retiring in June. The council received engineer's estimate for phase 2 of Colfax Avenue, which would be another state grant project. We also received notice from DEP they're going to be changing the rules and regulations on C1 waterways, Wanacue River to C1 waterway. That could impact greatly any work to do on the river.
Any what?
Impact any work to do on the river. In terms of riparian buffers and things, it's going to make it more difficult to get closer to the rivers, to preserve the rivers. So that's going to be an issue, but it's a proposed standard that the DEP should stay out there. We received our Clean Communities Award for 2018, which should go in 2020 budget. That was $19,029. We used that money to help fund the river cleanup that we do in the fall. We used to offset some of our street sweeping contract with Bloomingdale. And this year we used our balance to actually put money toward a recycling roll-off dump, the trucks that move all the heavy debris out of the recycling center. So that's what we use that money for. We had a pre-construction meeting on Montclair Avenue. That project's in two stages. We're going to be doing drainage and curb work with one contractor, and then Tilcon's going to come in and do the overlay project as part of a co-op contract to save us some money. And actually that resolution will be on our meeting of the 26th to avoid that. We received the alcohol rehab award from the state. It's for drunk driving enforcement, and there's some thresholds. Each year you have a baseline. If you go over the baseline, so last year we were 7 arrests over the prior year. So we received $482 as part of the grant, and that also be put into our 2020 budget. And usually the court uses that for overtime to cover, either our trials and stuff like that. I also provide the council with a list of all of our inlet reconstruction projects. There's 14 locations that we're going to be doing this year as part of our program. And also, 12 streets were chosen as part of the additional funding for the roads to be paved, and those are listed also. They'll also be Tilcon through the co-op, and we're trying to make it as down and dirty as possible to save some money on engineering and additional costs. We had our
When does that start?
What?
When does that start?
Probably late summer, early fall. Because you have to go in there and do all the drainage work there too. They have some inlets and stuff that will be done, then you do the paving. So late summer, early fall. We had our note sale, over $2 million in notes we sold. Our net interest rate was 1.89%, which is still unbelievable when you think on $2 million. It's been doing very well. And that's a factor of how we rate with Moody's and Standard & Poor's relative to the borough's overall fiscal condition. So it helps that we've done things like pay down our debt, increased our surplus, and all the important things that Chuck has always been banging into us every time we talk to him about ways to kind of improve the town's fiscal condition. And the last thing is relative to dealing with Barbara's retirement. I'm discussing with Bloomingdale Shared Service to do accounts payable to fill out that void. And that's my report.
Okay, so, I know we also had a meeting with our DPW supervisor to address, any concerns with potholes. I know there's been some people concerned about potholes on their streets. We don't know them, we're hoping that we get some more ideas of where the potholes are, but if you have a pothole on your street, there's nothing wrong with leaving a message at the DPW saying, I live on the street, there's a pothole there, they'll come take a look at it. That's the way we identify where the holes are. There was a resident concerned about Howard Street. I think we're working on that drainage situation over there.
That's a two-pronged issue there too, right there.
Right. Any questions for the administrator?
I have a question. Kevin, the status of the crosswalk and signage on Ringwood Avenue near West Lennox, it was missed when it was done. And then 9 Hamburg Turnpike, any updates on that? Whether they...
I just saw from Sal that they're required to do that. They notified the property owner to do that. As I mentioned in my email last night, he's actually going to start doing the site work anyway, so hopefully it'll be this week and get it done.
Anything else? Okay. Motion to open the meeting for public comment.
So moved.
Councilman DeLine, Councilwoman Palladori, all in favor? Aye. Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Step up.
Good evening, Alan Vigilista, Ringwood Court. A couple issues that just came up tonight as a result of the discussion. Number one, on the issue of potholes, we have a truck that drives around this entire town twice a week picking up metal. Do these gentlemen look at anything else?
We've had that discussion.
Can they not look at the road? They probably go around the potholes. They probably go past the storm drains that are clogged. Twice a week, they drive this entire town looking for metal. And we have to ask our residents to pull in potholes? I don't get it. I really don't.
I agree.
The other issue with DPW is many days I observed the garbage trucks leaking fluids out of the hopper. Now, I was always under the impression it was illegal to pull the plug on the hopper, which is the area in the rear of the truck, that all the juices that get squeezed out of everybody's raw garbage end up and down Wanacue Avenue in the firehouse parking lot, so that on that nice 80 to 90 degree day, it leaves a great aroma in the area. So you come out of the Cardinal after having breakfast, and you walk out onto the avenue, and the first thing you smell is that beautiful aroma of garbage going up and down the street. I would like to know from you, ladies and gentlemen, if that is legal or not legal to do. As far as I'm concerned, there could be hazardous materials in there. They're dragging them all around town, sharing them with everybody. And to me, I don't believe it's permitted, but that would have to be explained by our DPW superintendent. On the issue of parking with the trucks, back in the 80s, if you remember, you were here, it was decided to eliminate the no parking 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. And we did that because as people matured, as families matured, people were adding more cars to their home and they had nowhere to park. So we allowed that. Well, we allowed that for cars, and then eventually it became trucks, and then eventually it became commercial vans, and eventually it became 18-wheelers. Because unless you ride herd on things like that, the quality of life goes downhill. It's the broken windows theory, we all heard about that. And the next thing you know, you look out the window and you see so-and-so van lines. Or the guy with 3 or 4 vans for a particular business. That's a quality of life issue. And it's got to be addressed properly. Now, all laws aren't under parking. You know, I've explained this to people that have approached me on the street. All laws aren't under parking. For example, parking on your lawn in the front. Okay, there's an amount of square footage of front lawn that cannot be developed for parking. Your driveway can only be so big. So when people say I'm going to make my driveway 3 times the width it is because my daughter and my son are coming home from the summer, it's illegal. It's against the zoning ordinance. It has nothing to do with parking. It has to do with the square footage of coverage of asphalt on the front lawn of your home. Okay? People park with the rear ends of their cars covering the sidewalks. So as the kids are walking home on the sidewalks, I see it, they have to go out around that car to get down the street. It's illegal. That is under our parking ordinance. So it's a matter of educating the public and educating or asking the police department to enforce those types of issues. This ordinance really upset me tonight. If you can't tell, this ordinance about hooved animals. I don't see how a suburban community like this can support something like that. I know there are some properties in this town that are 40,000 square feet, but they've been that way forever. So now my question to you is, if I buy my neighbor's house right next door, which is a little bit a bigger lot than me, I'm probably going to have about 50,000 square feet. Can I then put farm animals on those 2 lots right in the middle of that court and say I have my 40,000 square feet of space?
I would say with a house on it, you'd have to take the other house down. If you took the
So
other
this
house
is
down.
40,000 square feet of just land without a home or structure?
It only deals with goats, no other animal.
All right, so I can have goats then?
You possibly could if you have more than 40,000 square feet.
So all of my neighbors around me on that court are going to listen to my goats or smell my
But
goats?
someone has a dog that's bigger than that, they're listening to your dog that's bigger than
I
that.
understand that, but a dog is licensed by the borough. I know that it's had its shots. I know that it's hopefully taken care of.
No, there's no ordinance
I
that
don't
has to
know.
be taken care of.
No, but what I'm getting at is that's a domestic pet that you
Well,
would
these are
have.
domestic pets to some people.
Well,
There's the problem.
That is exactly my concern. Where does it end? What becomes another domestic pet tomorrow? And when do we turn our suburban neighborhoods into chicken farms and so forth? I think a survey should be done of this community, figuring out how many lots actually are greater than 40,000 square feet, to see what segment of the population it affects. And if it affects a disproportionate amount of people, I don't know that we should change it or alter or modify or enact an ordinance specific to someone that just wants to do one thing. Because I may want to do something in my house. Maybe maybe now with the redevelopment, I want to put 4 stories. I want to redevelop my house and make it a 4-story living space. Am I going to be allowed to do that in my zone? I believe that's an A1 zone, correct? A residential home. So in an A1 zone, if I apply for a zoning variance, can I put up a 3 or 4-story home?
Certainly have it heard.
So that's up to the zoning board.
There's always exceptions and variances. Now, going back to what you brought up, you know, we're talking about an outside. If someone wants to keep that animal in their house, they're allowed to keep that animal in their house. Okay, so...
I wouldn't necessarily smell it my next door neighbor.
No, but, you know, you're considering it a wild animal, but anyone can say a dog is a wild animal, or a cat, or a chicken, or a bird. These are all animals. They're domestic animals as pets to these people. Now, to me, not to you, I know the people that have chickens love the fact that they get fresh eggs from their chickens every day.
I'm not against that.
Well, you're not against it.
Except in the zone.
Well, there is no
If
zone.
you live
It's
in...
a number.
Well, I mean, are they mandated to be so far away from the fence?
Yes.
Property
Well,
line?
which ones are we talking
All
about?
right.
Chickens?
Chickens. Or even the goats.
And
The goats will be, yes.
All right, so
Just
within
the
that
living
40,000 acres, you got to be
Right,
within
so, I mean,
limits.
it didn't go into the detail, but there has to be a certain amount of, space per, like, the animal has to be able to be housed in a certain amount of space, too. So there's a lot of other details I didn't go into, but again, that's the...
So is that same space for one animal, or that
It'd be
same
for-
space up to how many animals?
It would be up to...
Depends on the animal.
Depends on the animal, but it's up to 2 animals if it was a hooked animal. That was what the...
So it's a maximum of 2 animals for that,
Which are under 50 pounds.
Okay.
under 50 pounds.
Chickens, there's a
I can't
different
get into
number,
this
hens and things like
scale
that.
issue that you...
That is a problem, yes.
All right. Well, it just concerns me, because I see it as a degradation of our neighborhoods. If somebody wants to farm, I have nothing against that. But farm in a community that is designed for farming, I don't know if our suburban neighborhoods afford the space. I mean, Wayne is taking the castle to court, because I can hear from my home the fireworks shows that people are paying for their private weddings at the castle on Route 23 in Pequannock. And Wayne has threatened to take them to court. I don't know if he did follow through, Mayor Logano, with the lawsuit, but I can hear from my town. My dog is afraid of fireworks. He's not a very big fan, but I can hear them from my house.
Well, if there's an issue, by the way, with any of these, your dog or farm animals that are in this size lot, and a resident calls and complains, it will be investigated, and if it's found to be an issue, they will be ticketed, just like a dog will constantly barking, or a cat that's out. We're looking at an ordinance right now that doesn't allow free-roaming cats, just to be, you're not allowed to own a cat and then just let it run around anywhere it wants. It's the same quality of life issues that you're dealing with. There are people who want to feed wild cats all the time, and it's against the law to feed wild cats. So, I mean, there's a lot of laws that are on the books that are not addressed. You brought up the parking issues. The only way that would happen is if a police officer is writing the tickets and driving through the streets to see that. Our inspectors are not driving around looking for those kind of things. They're preactive, so when they get a call, they go look at something. But the police are on the roads, and they would be seeing that. So that they had that ability at any time to do that.
Just as an example, if I may, one more minute. My neighbor growing up cut grass on the side of his full-time job. I say cut grass because he wasn't a landscaper. He had a little lawnmower, he had rakes and shovels in a rack that he built in the back of his pickup truck. He could not park that in his front yard.
I agree, yeah.
He had to park that behind the front wall of his home, either on the sides of the home or in the rear of his house. He could not park that in the driveway forward of the front wall of his home. And that ordinance is still on the books in this town.
It is. But the reason this ordinance came up with the hours that we did, because people have to do work also with these trailers and trucks during the day, so we can't limit the hours during the day because people have to do work.
Right.
But at night, they will not be allowed to park overnight with these events. So that's what we're doing with that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You had a lot to say there, but let's see what we go back to. The zoning, of course, we're looking into. The animals is a tricky business. Believe me, it's a tricky business. I don't know if you were here last year, but we had 2 women that came here who were very upset that we were passing an ordinance against hoofed animals. And they were their pets for the last 20 years and, very upset about it. Lived on small acreage lots, so they can't put them back, so they had to give up their pets, supposedly. So it's, it's one of those tough issues. The chickens, after getting a lot of noise, and a lot of people who had chickens, researching it, I didn't know you didn't need a rooster to have eggs to eat, so really you don't need a rooster to have eggs. So the noise that comes from the chickens really comes from the rooster, so not having a rooster is the reason it would help things, so we identified that. We limited the number of chickens, where the coops can be. It's a changing society, things are changing all the time, so it's part of the ideas we have to address when we're moving forward, but thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address?
Okay, Russ. Talk about your play.
First, say who you are.
First your name.
My name is Russell Cockpit. I'm in a play. 26 Tapestry,
Go ahead, now tell us.
Buckley's, New Jersey.
I'll talk about your play.
I'm in a play called Stoneway.
Okay. The play is coming fine. And, it'll be in October sometime at the, not the church itself, but not the worship center at Jackson Chapel. Yeah, right. It's called the Chapel now. It used to be called Jacksonville Chapel. But anyway, the play is going to be a fantastic play. We've got to do rehearsals, and we are quite close. And I thank you for getting the money for the play, because it really does mean a lot of people, to special needs people.
I don't know if he remembers, I saw the costume already that you had.
You did?
Yes, I did.
We've been practicing a lot.
Practicing a
So
lot.
I will be there, I'm sure other people will come, so...
Yeah, make sure
We'll be there.
you be there.
I will be there.
Okay, Russ, you gotta keep going.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session? Councilwoman Riker, Council President Riker, Councilwoman Palladori, all in favor? Aye. Against? Privilege of the floor, anybody have privilege of the floor?
Just want to quickly thank the OEM or whoever coordinated the generators at the traffic lights. Now that when there's a power outage, our traffic lights will still be functional, and we'll have to have a police officer stand there and direct traffic.
That is a big deal, it is definitely a big deal. Anybody else? Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Councilman Lennon? Second?
Second.
Councilwoman Palladori, thank you everyone for coming. Where am I signing?
Been away.